We've all been taught a very specific, almost unshakable rule about how the world works, especially when you're operating at the highest levels of business.
Right.
And that rule is basically if you pick a fight with the U.S. government, you lose.
Always.
Yeah, it's the ultimate heavyweight match, and the House always wins. But we're looking at a stack of sources today detailing a recent event in the tech sector that just it completely flipped that assumption on its head. I'm so excited to share this with you today because it's genuinely counterintuitive.
It really is. It challenges pretty much every conventional theory we have about government contracting, market dynamics, and how frontier tech companies are supposed to behave when, billions of dollars are sitting on the table. We are seeing a real-time stress test of corporate leverage versus state power.
Exactly. So let's lay out the facts for you right at the top. We're talking about Anthropic. They had a massive contract up for renewal with the Department of Defense. And when it came time to actually sign the paperwork, the talks just completely collapsed.
Fell apart.
And they collapsed because Anthropic drew two very specific, non-negotiable red lines in the sand. First, they said their AI architecture cannot be used for the mass surveillance of American citizens. And second, it cannot be used in fully autonomous weapon systems without direct human authorization.
And the Pentagon's response was basically to reject those restrictions outright. The DoD wanted authorization to use the technology for, quote, all lawful purposes.
Right.
They wanted a broad, unconstrained mandate, and Anthropic just refused to grant it.
And the fallout from that was swift. I mean, it was severe. After talks broke down, the Trump administration stepped in and posted a demand that all federal agencies entirely cut off Anthropic. Following that, the Pentagon officially labeled them a supply chain risk.
Which is a huge deal.
It is. Now, really quick, just a note for you listening. Our goal today isn't to take a political stance on the Trump administration's actions, the Pentagon, or Anthropic's politics. We are strictly here to impartially unpack the fascinating business and tech dynamics at play in our sources.
Absolutely. We're just looking at the facts driving the business dispute.
Right, because those dynamics get wild. That supply chain risk label. That is historically reserved for foreign hardware adversaries, not domestic software developers. It's a heavy-hitting tool designed to just completely freeze a company out of the market.
Under any normal historical precedent, you'd expect a company facing that kind of coordinated federal freeze-out to take a debilitating hit, if not collapse entirely. The pressure is literally designed to be overwhelming.
But the exact opposite happened. Immediately following that breakdown and the severe federal label, Anthropic's apps surged to the #1 spot on the App Store.
Number one.
They actually beat ChatGPT. They took a massive public hit from the federal government, and the consumer market rewarded them with the absolute top spot on the charts.
And that brings us to the core mission of our deep dive today. We're going to examine whether this App Store surge was just a lucky PR moment, a temporary bump, or if we're looking at a brilliant, highly calculated business strategy.
Okay, let's unpack this layer by layer. Because to understand why Anthropic walked away, we have to look at what they're actually protecting. And it's not the government contract. What they're protecting is their moat.
Yes.
If we look at the DNA of Anthropic, their core differentiation isn't necessarily having a vastly smarter model. At the frontier level, the gap between top models is pretty marginal. You're basically flipping a coin on pure performance on any given week.
What's fascinating is how that DNA functions as a financial asset. I mean, most of Anthropic's founders left OpenAI specifically because they felt the pace of commercialization was compromising safety.
Right.
That unwavering commitment isn't just a mission statement. It is their ultimate trust signal. It's the specific signal that won them massive backing from Google and Amazon. But to truly grasp the strategy here, we have to look at resource economics in the AI industry right now. Capital isn't the scarce resource. Top-tier talent is.
So how does walking away from a massive DoD contract actually help solve a talent bottleneck? Losing revenue usually makes hiring harder.
Think about the mindset of the people they want to hire. We're talking about a tiny, elite pool of the best AI safety researchers globally. They have their pick of the litter. By refusing to treat their ethical red lines as bargaining chips with the Pentagon, Anthropic essentially executed the greatest recruiting campaign possible.
A global, multi-million-dollar billboard for recruiting.
Exactly. They signaled to every elite researcher that they actually absorbed financial damage to stand by their principles. Losing the government contract might yield a massive compounding return on talent acquisition over the next decade.
That makes total sense.
Ooh.
But what does this mean for the financial reality of the business? This brings up a paradox in the sources I really want to wrap my head around. Anthropic generates the vast majority of its revenue from enterprise clients, not government contracts.
Right.
So if the government isn't even their main income source, why are they fighting the government in court over this? Why not just walk away, take the recruiting win, and focus on corporate clients?
That introduces a critical concept called valuation distortion. Anthropic isn't suing because they're desperate to win back the DoD as a client. They're fighting because of the spillover effect the supply chain risk label creates in the private sector.
So if I'm a chief information officer at an international bank, how does that Pentagon label change my behavior on a Monday morning?
It fundamentally breaks your procurement pipeline. When a company is officially labeled a supply chain risk, getting what we call the Huawei treatment, it triggers automatic red flags in vendor management systems.
So they don't even have to make a manual choice.
Exactly. Compliance algorithms automatically pause procurement out of an abundance of caution. It creates an artificial deep discount on the company. Capital gets nervous.
Because integrating a frontier model into a bank takes months and millions of dollars. Nobody wants to commit to a platform the federal government just declared a national security risk.
And that's exactly why Anthropic must sue. They have to prove to the market that the label is an irrational mispricing born of political panic, not a fundamental deterioration of their business. If they win in court, the brand credibility premium they unlock will be worth far more than the defense contract.
Here's where it gets really interesting. There's a detail in our sources that is heavily underreported. On the exact same day the Pentagon hit Anthropic with that risk designation, OpenAI announced a new deal to fill the gap left by Anthropic.
It's a stunning sequence of events, but the plot twist happened right after that ink dried. Right after OpenAI took the contract, the head of OpenAI's own robotics division resigned publicly.
Wow. It's the corporate equivalent of pulling the fire alarm on your way out the building.
It really is. And his statement echoed Anthropic's exact concerns. He stated that mass surveillance and giving weapons autonomous lethal capabilities demand far more serious consideration.
Let that sink in. That wasn't PR spin from Anthropic taking a shot at a rival. That was an executive inside the company that just signed the DoD deal, validating Anthropic's stance. It proves these red lines aren't just fringe positions. They are massive, unresolved tensions existing inside the entire industry.
Even inside the company that just took the deal.
Right. But help me understand the contract difference here. Because OpenAI signed it and Anthropic didn't. How differently are they handling these boundaries legally?
There's a crucial nuance. OpenAI agreed to comply with, quote, existing laws. Anthropic demanded their restrictions be explicitly written into the text of the contract.
And relying on existing laws in a space moving this fast seems like a huge loophole.
It's a whole ballgame, because when you agree to comply with existing laws, you accept a vague standard where the government decides what is lawful in real time. Anthropic refused to hand over that interpretative power.
Okay, clearly Anthropic is incredibly confident in their position. I want to transition to the technical side of our sources to understand where that confidence comes from. What makes them so uniquely assured? It comes down to a research direction called constitutional AI. Let's dive into how that actually works because it's so different.
This is the technical moat most people miss. Standard industry practice is to slap a safety filter onto the AI after it generates an output. It's a retroactive block. But constitutional AI bakes the values and boundaries directly into the training process itself.
So it's evaluating its own internal logic before it even speaks.
Exactly. The model evaluates its own responses against a constitution during training. It learns to inherently reject certain pathways.
Let's put this in a real-world, high-stakes scenario. How does this architecture matter if an AI is, say, managing complex military logistics?
It creates a level of interpretability and controllability that leads the industry. In high-stakes environments like military or medical decisions, an audit trail isn't optional. It's a hard requirement. You have to know why the AI made a decision. Constitutional AI provides a much clearer window into the model's reasoning process.
Which brings up a profound irony. By blacklisting Anthropic, the Pentagon can switch to OpenAI to fill the immediate gap. But if they encounter high-stakes scenarios that require rigorous explainability, they might actually be locking themselves out of the exact tool they need.
The government might be self-imposing constraints on its own future capabilities over a policy dispute. That's the ultimate technical irony and the foundation of Anthropic's confidence.
But we also need to zoom out, because in the midst of this dispute, something historically significant is happening. Competitors are actively rushing to defend Anthropic in court.
Yes, the amicus briefs.
Our sources show over 30 scientists from OpenAI and Google DeepMind filed friend of the court briefs as individuals supporting Anthropic. Microsoft even submitted a brief arguing that AI companies need space to maintain their own safety principles.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it shows the gravity of the situation. Direct competitors don't support each other over routine business disputes. They are rallying because the entire industry recognizes an existential threat.
Because if the government can label a company a national security risk simply for holding a safety position, the entire incentive structure for responsible AI research collapses.
Exactly. Why would any company invest billions in developing safety protocols if those protocols get punished with federal blacklists?
It's a watershed moment. So synthesizing all of this, what does this mean for you, the listener, moving forward?
There are three major long-term takeaways here. First, the negotiation between governments and AI companies over where to draw the line is just getting started. Companies that build credible ethical frameworks right now are building compounding moats.
Their banking trust.
Yes. Second, Anthropic's pushback is a masterclass in long-term brand investment. The App Store surge proves that ordinary users respond to genuine principle, creating a trust that a single government action cannot destroy.
People want products built by teams who stand for something.
Right. And third, there is a permanent structural tension here. Governments want powerful AI with unlimited control, but frontier AI development requires giving companies room to uphold their principles. Those realities are in direct conflict.
It's a fascinating collision of technology and power. And before we close, we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to explore on your own. If you were the CEO of Anthropic, would you have made the same call? A contract worth hundreds of millions on one side, 10 years of brand credibility on the other.
It's the ultimate test of leadership. Your answer likely reveals how you view the long-term intrinsic value of a company. And remember, the court ruling hasn't come down yet. The story is still unfolding.
If you found this deep dive worth your time, follow along as we track the story's development. This is just my personal analysis, not financial advice. Do your own research.